Good morning, grade 8. Today we will continue with chapter 5, percentage and proportionality. In this part, we will talk about proportionality. By definition, two varying quantities are said to be in a relation of proportionality if they are multiplicatively connected to a constant, that is when either their ratio or their product yields a constant. And the value of this constant is called the coefficient of proportionality or proportionality constant. In order to clarify this idea, let's take our first example. In this example, we have to check if this table is a proportionality table. In order to know if this table is a proportionality table, we have to take every column and divide the first row in this column by the second row in this column. That means we have to divide 16 by 8 and we get 2. Then we divide 10 by 5 and we get 2. Then we divide 8 by 4, we get 2. And finally we divide 12 by 6 and we get 2. So if you can see, 16 over 8 is equal to 10 over 5, which is equal to 8 over 4 and 12 over 6. Since they are all equal to 2. Since we have a common ratio which is 2, then this table is a proportionality table, and 2 in this case is the constant that we were talking about in the definition. Take another example, which is example 2. In this example, we have to check also if this table is a proportionality table. As we have done in the example number 1, we have to divide 9 by 3, we get 3. 18 by 6, we get 3. 16 by 4, we get 4. And 12 by 4, we get 3. Since 9 over 3 is equal to 18 over 6 and equal to 12 over 4, but they are not equal to 16 over 4, so we don't have a common ratio. Therefore, this table is not a proportionality table. Please open your books on page 40 in order to solve the two numbers 6 and 7. In number 6, we have in the given a equal to radical 27 minus 2 radical 3 plus radical 12, and b equal to radical 75 plus 4 radical 3 minus radical 147. In part 1, we have to simplify the two expressions a and b, and then we have to calculate a times b. A is equal to 2 radical 27 minus 2 radical 3 plus radical 12. Then A is equal to 6 radical 3 minus 2 radical 3 plus 2 radical 3. Therefore, A is equal to 6 radical 3. B is equal to radical 75 plus 4 radical 3 minus radical 147. Then B is equal to 5 radical 3 plus 4 radical 3 minus 7 radical 3. Therefore, B is equal to 2 radical 3. So here we have used the method of chapter 1 in order to simplify the two expressions A and B. We still have to calculate A times B. A times B is equal to 6 radical 3 times 2 radical 3. Therefore, A times B is equal to 36. In part 2, we have to show that the opposite table is a proportionality table. In order to prove that this table is a proportionality table, we must have A over 4 radical 5 plus 2 radical 11 equal to 4 radical 5 minus 2 radical 11 over B, as we have seen in the two examples 1 and 2. So, if we make a cross multiplication in this case, we get a times b equal to 4 radical 5 plus 2 radical 11 into 4 radical 5 minus 2 radical 11. A times b is equal to 36. And if we multiply 4 radical 5 plus 2 radical 11 times 4 radical 5 minus 2 radical 11, we get also 36. 36 is equal to 36. This is a true statement. Then the opposite table is a proportionality table. In number 7, we have to calculate in part 1 x and y such that the opposite table is a proportionality table. So we have a proportionality table and we have two unknowns, x and y, that we must calculate their values. Let's start with x. In order to calculate x, we have 80 over x equal 2 over 5. If we make a cross multiplication, then we get 2x equal 400. Then x is equal to 400 over 2. Therefore, x is equal to 200. We still have to calculate y. In order to calculate y, we have 2 over 5 equals 75 over y. We make a cross multiplication and we get 2y equals 375. Then y is equal to 375 over 2. Therefore, y is equal to 187.5. In part 2, to prepare a cake, a pastry cook uses the following proportions: 80 grams of flour, 2 eggs, and 75 grams of sugar. Calculate the quantities of flour and sugar needed to mix with the 5 eggs. If we take this table, in the first row we have the proportions that a pastry cook uses: the 80 grams of flour, the 2 eggs, and the 75 grams of sugar. Now, if he needs to mix 5 eggs instead of 2 eggs, what are the quantities of flour and sugar? You can see that this table is the same table as the one in part 1. So we can directly use the results of part 1 to deduce that x is equal to 200 grams of flour and y is equal to 187.5 grams of sugar. Please don't forget to write the exercises in this video on your notebooks. You also have to do the assignment, which is the extra worksheet number 3. And this assignment is due for Monday, April 27th, 2020. Thank you so much for listening.